Today we're going to talk about the stone known as sapphire. I would love to have a piece of sapphire. It's not something that I have. I could always paint a picture of a sapphire stone, or I can visualize the stone itself when I'm working with it. So that's a reminder, with any of these stones that I've talked about, you don't have to go out and obtain them. You can create visualizations of them through uses of art, whether you create that art yourself or you contribute to someone else that's creating such art. So, sapphire, we often associate with the blue sapphire, and I'm mostly going to talk about the blue sapphire today. We would probably often associate sapphire with things like wisdom, truth, and spiritual insight. Now, you can get it in colors like yellow, pink, black, and many other colors actually. And so if it's a different color sapphire than blue, then it will have its own variation of uses and meaning as well. Now, when we're looking at the speed at which it vibrates, we're looking at things like on the scale of medium to very high with sapphire. When we're looking at birthstones, we're often associating it with September, which happens to be my birth month as well. Now, when we're looking at the chakras or the energy centers of the body, we'll often associate sapphire with the throat and also the third eye. When we're looking at like the astrological archetypes, we're looking at things like Virgo, Libra, Capricorn, and especially Taurus as well, actually. Now, when we're looking at planetary associations, with blue, it's mostly associated with the planet of Saturn in particular cultures, which I find quite interesting. And when we're looking at the elements, looking at it through an elemental lens, sapphire would likely be most associated with the element of water and also the element of air. Now, when we're looking at the physical attributes that sapphire may assist with, we're looking at things like the thyroid, nervous system, the pituitary gland, like eyes, ears, throat, insomnia, fever, depression, anxiety. And this is just a small selection of the physical ailments that sapphire may assist with. May assist with is the key word here. I'd like to remind you, I'm not a medical practitioner, and nor am I making claims that sapphire is going to cure X, Y, and Z. So when we're looking at the emotional and mental benefits or potential benefits with sapphire and working with it, we're looking at things like emotional balance, inner peace, clarity, focus, self-discipline, loyalty, integrity. And then when we're looking at the metaphysical attributes of sapphire and what it may assist with, we're looking at things like creating shields, again working with the chakras that I spoke about before, which are the throat, the third eye, developing certain extra sensory abilities, and discernment is also a real key one there. Now, when we look at the cultural associations with sapphire, there's a number of cultures there. I'm just going to speak to a few of them. When we look at things like Old England or medieval Europe, we're looking at things like kingship, right? Divine blessing, sacred truth. There are particular people within particular communities that would wear sapphire or work with sapphire. It wasn't something that everybody in the village worked with. Now, when we look at the Vedic teachings and Vedic astrology, they often associated sapphire with Saturn, and for some, they would be initiated through a particular process, and then they would be allowed to wear sapphire on their middle finger on their right hand. But it wasn't just something that, again, anyone and everyone would do. Because it was a lot of association with, what they might call accelerated karma and discipline and wealth. For someone to create such wealth or to carry such wealth, for it to be distributed and used ethically, right? There's a responsibility of discipline that is really required to ensure that that wealth is shared in a very healthy way among not just themselves and their close circle, but others that are living in connection, with them and with their supposed power. When we're looking at Islamic tradition, there's the story of, like the Tablet of Law or the Ten Commandments, which was supposedly written on a sapphire tablet, which I find quite interesting. And, you'll often find in other cultures around the world, they would use sapphire to banish evil and attract blessings, reveal fraud, reveal dishonesty. So, I can see some themes there across many cultures, which we may have been told were quite separate. However, there were times in which peoples were quite, not always necessarily transitory, but they did travel. They did mingle with other cultures. They traded, whether it be physical items or other wisdoms that were shared. So whether they all uniquely came up with their own interpretation of sapphire and it all happens to be associated with some very similar themes, or whether it started in one place and then spread throughout the world, I can't tell you. I can't know at this time. So yes, don't forget to cleanse your sapphire. If you do have a piece of sapphire, it's reasonably resilient to many methods of cleaning, but probably the best thing would be things like moonlight, smudging with particular plants, cleaning with other crystals. You can do sound cleaning. You can also do Reiki or energy cleaning with it as well. And some people say you can also run it underwater. You just keep it in water as well. So if you've got any questions about sapphire, its uses, its benefits, maybe you have been gifted a beautiful piece of such a stone yourself, welcome to leave that in the comments section below, and we'll see you in the next vlog.